Everybody please find a seat. We're going to try to get started here since a lot of people have tight agendas. Please, everyone, just come in and find a seat or your seat. let's get the last few people in and everybody take a seat. All right, welcome again, everyone. If I can steal the attention up here to the front. Again, for those of you I didn't meet on the way in, I'm Richard Garriott. I'm president of the Explorers Club, and welcome to the Explorers Club. You know, for those of you who don't know it, our club was formed 120 years ago during what I would like to describe as the heroic age of exploration, where people were risking life and limb and often losing lives and limbs in order to reach things like the North Pole for the first time. That sledge hanging there was Henson and Perry's sledge that made it the first to the North Pole. One of our most recent, what we call famous firsts, is actually tucked in behind the projection screen here, some of the flags taken to the surface of the moon by the Apollo astronauts. In fact, pretty much all astronauts have been members of the club, and I would in fact argue that any explorer worth their salt has been, over the last 120 years, have been members of this club. So if you hadn't had a chance, I hope you do get a chance to come back and take your time to walk through our archives. Our archivist Lacey is actually around the door there, opening and closing doors for folks. But she really just has we have an amazing collection of the history of exploration. Well, for those of you who joined us at 5 o'clock for our first session, welcome back. And for those of us joining us for the first time here tonight, welcome to the first night of the Explorers Club's Climate Week 2023. And welcome in particular to His Serene Highness, Prince Albert of Monaco, who is both an honorary director of the Explorers Club as well as a founding member of the Board of Trustees of the Explorers Club. So thank you very much for being in attendance with us today. You know, in our first session, we heard about the world's highest weather station on Mount Everest. And now we're going to move to something a little bit lower in altitude as we explore sustainable development on small island states. And by the way, just a personal off-script comment here too. You know, even for things like Oceans Week, which we had prior to the summer, it was actually very, very clear that island states have an incredible opportunity, maybe a responsibility to play here with the future of our planet. And so I, for one, am very, very excited about this particular session tonight. You know, as many of you just saw, just preceding this event, I had the great honor of signing an MOU on behalf of the Explorers Club and UNESCO to further confirm our commitment to collaborate on and advance the Agenda of 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals. And we're honored to be a part of this important work. So thank you, UNESCO. And perhaps one of our clearest commitments to these goals is the fact that we're here at the club to support the UN agenda with this week's program and Climate Week, which we feature groundbreaking discoveries as well as pioneering advocacy from all over the world. And to introduce the program and for this evening and for the week, it is my pleasure to introduce to you our own leading scientist, the chair of our Climate Week committee, Dr. Alex Moore.
Good evening, welcome to Climate Week. It is my distinct pleasure and privilege to introduce His Serene Highness Prince Albert II of Monaco, who has time and again proven his deep personal commitment to the environment. He is deeply supportive and conversant with the scientific community, always ready to head into the field and to experience personally the threats facing the planet. Little known fact, he is the only head of state to have traveled to both the North and South Poles. And he is also, as Richard just mentioned, an honorary director of the Explorers Club. In 2011, he was entrusted by the UN Secretary General with the preparation of the ocean sections of the Rio Plus 20 conference. And in 2009, he drew the attention of decision makers to the acidifications of the ocean. Another crisis emerging from the CO2 emissions, man-made CO2 emissions, along with climate change. The result was the Monaco Declaration signed by over 150 leading scientists in marine science and from 26 countries. Today, once again, Prince Albert shows his commitment to scientific research and his leadership in preserving our blue planet. Welcome, Prince Albert.
Well, thank you very much for that very kind introduction. Dear President Richard Garriott of the Explorers Club, Mr. President of the Seychelles, Mr. Pavel Ramakalawan, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear members of the club, dear friends. I'm delighted, of course, to be here this evening with such an esteemed audience, and a lot of friends in the audience, a lot of like-minded people, and this is an important meeting, and I think you'll agree. I hope that this will represent, I think, a beacon of hope, not only for this kickoff event of your Climate Week, but hopefully we will be able to set the path to help small island developing states. And I'm delighted to co-chair this event with His Excellency, the President of the Seychelles. And if you haven't been to the Seychelles, please go. It's absolutely beautiful. And the work that you are doing there, Mr. President, with everybody involved in not only sustainability but ocean conservation is absolutely remarkable, and I think it should be highlighted. So thank you very much. We all are well aware of the situation of our global ocean, and to say the least, it is more than alarming. We have to remember every day that small island developing states, SIDS, are victims of the decline of the ocean's health. For SIDS and their people, the ocean is more than an immediate environment. It is an intrinsic part of their culture, their lifestyle, their identity, and their future. These states, which are substantially large ocean states, should be recognized as such. Let's realize that their shores represent close to 50% of the planet's coastline and are home to 20% of the planet's coral reefs. By recognizing this fact, we become conscious of what these states and their people can contribute to the ocean, the climate, the planet, and all of us. Still too often they suffer from a lack of resources, whether it is scientific equipment and infrastructure, or human, financial, and technological resources. These resources, which alone will enable us to develop policies that address the complexity of current challenges. That is why this joint initiative by the United Nations Ocean Decade Alliance and the SIDS Coalition for Nature and the UN-related agencies is absolutely timely. And that's why it's also a harbinger of hope, especially within the context of the Sustainable Development Goals Summit. The generation of knowledge based on the best available science, of course, is key for decision-making and the better protection of the ocean and its resources, enhancing capacities for a stronger science policy interface will be instrumental, and in particular for the implementation of crucial multilateral instruments such as the Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. I'm convinced that this strategic collaboration between these two entities and the common framework for action it establishes, initially for the next 2 years, will promote access to tools, technology, data, and scientific expertise essential to a more effective management of the ocean and its resources. It will also enable us to create an appropriate policy framework in line with the concerns and ambitions that today bring together the Alliance and the Coalition. It will make it possible to involve all stakeholders that engage in these initiatives, the political players, of course, both at national and international levels and at the United Nations level, but also scientists, philanthropists, and economists. And thanks to the strengthening of local capacity and infrastructure and community involvement, it will promote more sustainable, more balanced, and more equitable development. As such, this collaboration is perfectly in keeping with what we endeavor to do also in the Principality of Monaco with our partners whenever possible. We are intensifying initiatives to this end, both through the various Monegasque players that are dedicated on these issues, such as the Oceanographic Institute, the Monaco Scientific Center, and my foundation, or, of course, through my government. Many meetings involving scientists, NGOs, businesses, governments, local authorities, and multilateral players are organized on a regular basis. For example, every year, the Monaco Ocean Week, which is usually in March, gives us an opportunity to bring together these stakeholders in Monaco for a whole week and to take part in an informal think tank, the Monaco Blue Initiative. In the same vein, we are fully involved, alongside France and Costa Rica, in the organization of the United Nations Ocean Summit, which will be held in Nice, just a few kilometers away from us in Monaco in June of 2025. To save the ocean, we need to unite skills, resources, talents, strengths around common projects like the one we are concerned with today. So I'd therefore like to thank you all for this initiative. Thank you all for being here and in this wonderful, beautiful room at the Explorers Club. And we thank you again. Thanks for hosting this event, Richard and everybody. And I wish you every success possible. Thank you very much.
It is now my pleasure to introduce the President of Seychelles, His Excellency Wavo Ramkalawan. Almost exactly a year ago, in an address to the UN General Assembly, President Ramkalawan stressed the importance of the threats that the developing world is facing because of climate change and resulting food and energy crises. I watched your speech. As well as today. I did my homework. And resulting food and energy crises, as well as COVID-19 and other climate-related emerging infectious diseases, little known fact. And of course, economic inequality. He pushed for more collective action to ensure developing nations are able to better pursue sustainable growth. The Seychelles, a small island nation off the coast of Africa, is particularly vulnerable to climate and economic problems, and tonight we're grateful to President Ramkalawan for his leadership. Welcome.
Let me first of all say a big thank you very much for the warm welcome. It's my first time here at the Explorers Club, and I'm already overwhelmed by some of the things I've been hearing, the many firsts, and I hope a lot of your members will come to the Seychelles for the first time soon. Your Serene Highness, Prince Albert II of Monaco, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It indeed gives me great pleasure to be here this evening to co-chair the launch of this strategic collaboration between the SEEDS Coalition for Nature and the Ocean Decade Alliance, alongside His Serene Highness Prince Albert II of Monaco, whom we had the pleasure in the Seychelles to welcome earlier this year when you came for the Aldabra expedition. And of course, since then, this collaboration has strengthened, and your passion in ocean protection is in fact an inspiration to us in the Seychelles. I take this opportunity to commend Monaco for its invaluable contributions to the UN Decade of Ocean Science. We equally recognize with great interest that the third Foundations Dialogue meeting held in Monaco in June this year served to amplify the role of the philanthropic community in ocean science in support of the UN Ocean Decade. Today, we gather to mark the launch of a strategic collaboration between the two influential organizations, the SEEDS Coalition for Nature and the Ocean Decade Alliance. This collaboration marks a significant milestone in our collective efforts to harness opportunities for accelerated action in small island developing states through enhanced knowledge, which already I've heard so much, and I'm looking forward to getting more into the knowledge, the outreach, and the capacity development. I must say, as president of the Seychelles, a nation intricately tied to the ocean and its biodiversity, I have witnessed firsthand the delicate balance between our natural environment and the well-being of our communities. SEEDS face unique challenges arising from their vulnerability to climate change, limited resources, and geographic isolation. However, we also possess tremendous potential to lead the world in sustainable practices and innovative solutions. Since its inception in Montreal last year during COP15, support for the coalition has grown, gathering 17 SEEDS members and 14 friends, dedicated to promoting the implementation of our ambitious biodiversity objectives. With this in mind, this strategic collaboration between the SEEDS Coalition for Nature and the Ocean Decade Alliance signifies a powerful alliance. It will amplify our efforts, enabling us to leverage the vast knowledge and expertise of both organizations. And by combining our strengths, we can develop innovative solutions to the challenges facing SEEDS in a rapidly changing world. And here, I'd like to state our main priorities, which are, of course, increasing the access of SEEDS to concessional financing and investments. We have to put emphasis on this. Promoting technical cooperation, technology transfer, and scientific capacity for SEEDS. Accelerating the mainstreaming of biodiversity across various sectors. Capacity development to empower SEEDS nations with the skills and knowledge needed to address environmental challenges effectively. I was just mentioning how sometimes it's difficult to get our people to understand the science behind actions that need to be taken because of the cultural tradition. So trying to get people to understand this and by so doing, to see how we can further protect our planet, protect the species, and help in this climate crisis that we are facing. Deepening our understanding of the complex interplay between nature, the ocean, and sustainable development through cutting-edge research, data collection, and analysis, empowering us to make informed decisions and take proactive action. Our oceans, of course, are not only a source of life, but also a vital component of our planet's ecosystem. For us in Seychelles, the ocean is our lifeline, providing sustenance, providing livelihoods, and also cultural identity. It is our duty, and this we take seriously. It is our duty to protect and preserve it for current and future generations. And this is why, small as we are, as far as the landmass is concerned, but enormous as far as the ocean is concerned, 1.4 million square kilometers of ocean, larger than Germany, larger than France, and many other countries, though we are called small, we are already protecting over 30% of these oceans. We've already dedicated them to total conservation. And in our Marine Protection Action Plan, we take this seriously. And we are hoping that we will go even further. So we who are called SEEDS have assumed a leading role in sustainable ocean governance and biodiversity conservation. In the case of Seychelles, embracing the blue economy concept enabled our country to find equilibrium between socio-economic development and the sustainability of our marine environment. This has allowed us to explore groundbreaking nature-based approaches such as the debt for nature swaps and blue bonds, whilst at the same time facilitating the emergence of new sectors, including marine biotechnology. Nonetheless, despite great efforts on the part of SEEDS, the marine environment globally is under threat, and this is basically from unsustainable practices, and we face degradation. This evening's gathering marks the beginning of a collaboration that will provide much-needed support to SEEDS by elevating ocean science through knowledge and capacity building. In turn, I believe that such synergies will contribute towards the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goal for Life Below Water, SDG 14. As we collectively work to address multiple intersecting challenges, including climate change, ocean acidification, overexploitation, and pollution of our oceans, our success will be determined by the partnerships we are able to forge and nurture. And this collaboration, this strategic alliance between the Coalition and the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development provide us with an excellent roadmap to achieving our joint ambitions, plans, and targets. The launch of the Joint Action Framework will be instrumental in ensuring that SEEDS are able to pursue the expertise, institutional capacity, and financing required to implement effective ocean governance and secure a more sustainable future. Let us bear in mind that the waves that lap our shores know no international frontiers. They connect us as one global family. Let us therefore embrace this opportunity to secure a prosperous and vibrant future for generations to come. The challenges we face are formidable, but so too is our determination to overcome them. With the launch of this strategic collaboration, we embark on a new chapter of cooperation and shared progress. Let us seize this opportunity to accelerate action in SEEDS, to protect our nature, and to preserve our oceans for future generations. Together, we can create a legacy of sustainability, resilience, and prosperity for all SEEDS nations. In concluding, again, my pleas for all of us to work together. Let us harness the power of knowledge, the outreach, and capacity development to shape a brighter future for our people, and by so doing, to save our planet. I thank you.
That concludes our introductory session. It's now my pleasure to introduce a colleague, moderator for the panel session that will ensue, Professor Åsa Persson, who is Research Director and Deputy Director of the Stockholm Environment Institute, where she is a member of the executive team and leads the development and implementation of the Institute's research strategy. Ms. Persson is one of 15 scientists from around the world that the UN Secretary General has appointed to the independent group of scientists to prepare the 2023 UN Global Sustainable Development Report. Here is Professor Persson. As you probably have guessed, I don't particularly enjoy the podium. But I will also call to the panel various country representatives, and I apologize in advance for any misspellings and mispronunciations. The Honorable Mr. Orlando Habet, of Belize, Minister of Sustainable Development, Climate Change, and Disaster Risk Management. Please come to the panel. His Excellency, Mr. João Gomes Cravinho, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Portugal. Unfortunately, the Honorable Stephen Victor of Palau is unable to join us tonight due to traffic and being stuck in traffic. If you thought that the Everest expedition was tough, try getting to the Explorers Club from the General Assembly. It is very challenging. Next, please, we would like to welcome Her Excellency Ms. Therese Coffey, Secretary of State for the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs from the United Kingdom. Again, His Excellency Mr. Abrao Vicente is also on the expedition to the Explorers Club and unable to join us at this time. And lastly, but not least, Her Excellency Ms. Anne Beate Trivenerheim. I'm sorry. That's just, I'm not a Nordic country speaker. Please, let's welcome these esteemed guests to the panel. And oh, you have it. Excellent.
His Serene Highness, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much to the co-chairs and you, Endesa, and UNESCO for inviting me tonight to moderate this panel discussion to launch the strategic collaboration. As a scientist, it's not only very exciting to be in this building, but also to hear more from our speakers tonight, how your countries and this partnership is really responding to the frequent calls from scientists we hear, science-based action for sustainability with no delay. And of course, for that to happen, we need to have the science in place. This panel will explore the three themes of ocean knowledge, outreach, and capacity development, and how members and friends intend to realize this strategic collaboration. So we invite you to discuss challenges and opportunities for ocean science and data to guide sustainable development in SIDS, or big ocean states, as we heard, and to stimulate innovation with benefits reaching far beyond the SIDS, global benefits, planetary benefits. For example, how can we trigger investment in ocean science in SIDS, and can SIDS benefit from peer learning? So as an introduction, I'd like to put this theme very briefly in the context of the full Agenda 2030, the 17 SDGs, indeed the SDG Summit we are all here for, and particularly in the context of the Global Sustainable Development Report that we launched last week, which is one of the key underpinning documents of the summit. I will not read the report, I'll give you the 10-second version. We are not on track, but transformation is possible and inevitable. So I hope that short cliffhanger entices you to engage with this report. But for this very ocean literate audience, familiar with SDG 14, I wanted to highlight three unique and new findings in this report that will add to the rationale for taking action and acting on this strategic collaboration we're celebrating tonight. So three findings to highlight. The scientists, we did a systematic review of how all the 17 SDGs interlink with each other, positively and negatively. Many studies have been done on this in recent years, and using very different methods, and various tools have been developed. And the good news is that overall, the SDGs are very synergistic with each other. However, there are also some trade-offs, and unfortunately, among those SDGs that are most vulnerable to making progress on other goals, we find SDG 14. The second finding to highlight is that we did another systematic review of scientific evidence of the global scenario modeling and integrated assessment literature that develops pathways to 2030 or 2050. And we found that SDG 14 is often completely missing in these scenario models, or barely represented. So this is a serious shortcoming in that we don't factor in how assumed policies and measures actually impact on our oceans, and also how the potential of ocean solutions to provide benefits across other SDGs are not factored in. The third and final finding is that we, in the report, also discussed the science policy society interface. And one of the greatest challenges we do identify is the uneven funding of research and development in high and low income countries, meaning that there are large knowledge gaps around the globe, and knowledge is not as locally produced and used to the extent it could be. So I hope this strategic collaboration can help address some of these knowledge gaps and action gaps. So let us now hear from the members and friends who've joined us this evening. And we will start with Belize. So, Honorable Mr. Orlando Habet, Minister of Sustainable Development, Climate Change and Disaster Risk Management. Can you please share with us how Belize intends to put this collaboration into practice, and maybe some of your experience with blue bonds and other innovations? Over to you.
Certainly. Thank you very much. A pleasant good night, Excellencies, co-chairs, His Serene Highness Prince Albert II of Monaco, and His Excellency President Wavel Ramkalawan of Seychelles, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, co-panelists. Let me first congratulate the coalition of SIDS of Nature and Friends. I'm very pleased of our progress since our launch at the CBD COP15. I'm honored to join you tonight on behalf of our Honorable Prime Minister, the Honorable John Briceño, who had to be in another meeting. But certainly, to launch this joint action collaboration framework between the SIDS Coalition for Nature and Ocean Decade Alliance. The aim of this initiative is really to harness opportunities for accelerated and transformative actions for reaching the SDGs in SIDS through enhanced ocean knowledge, capacity development, and outreach. In order, we think, to sustainably manage the ocean, the biodiversity and resources that it contains, SIDS urgently need increased access to science, knowledge, skills, data, and technology. This is essential for SIDS to be able to work across the interface of science, policy, and society, including as part of the implementation of the global policy frameworks, such as the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Perhaps chief among these needs is accessible financing for conservation and preservation efforts. SIDS are especially vulnerable to the effects of climate change and rising sea level, yet often lack the ability to access critical funds that are necessary for projects such as ocean protection and capacity building. As many of you might recall, in November 2021, Belize participated in a refinancing resulting in the restructuring of its commercial debt through blue bonds, leading to over 180 million in savings. Belize will now be able to deploy this amount to finance its marine conservation efforts over the following 20 years, thanks to the sharing of information, because we followed after Seychelles. And we hope that this type of collaboration and participation, and certainly the sharing of information, others can do possibly better than we did, right? And I think that Ecuador now has the largest blue bond. Thanks to the blue bond restructuring, Belize will complete a marine special plan to determine where to expand ocean protection and management to cover 30% of our oceans and best deliver benefits to people, livelihoods, and biodiversity. This process involves stakeholders representing local communities, fishing associations, tourism businesses, and government officials drawing on a transparent and science-based framework to guide planning. Stakeholder engagement is critical to ensure that the Marine Spatial Plan will sustainably support the country's economy while protecting marine habitats. Scientific knowledge alone is not always enough to drive efforts. Indigenous and local knowledge is an integral part of this equation, and the alternative knowledge systems must be embraced. Sorry for this paperwork. We've also been able to commit to the creation of a national blue carbon policy framework, a regulatory framework for high-value sustainable aquaculture and mariculture, as well as a governance framework for domestic and high seas fisheries consistent with transparent, science-based, socially responsible international best practices. And soon we hope that our Ministry of Foreign Affairs can also sign on to the BBNJ. Though Belize's commitments under our Blue Bonds were made prior to this new joint action framework, it remains emblematic of the types of conservation efforts and capacity building possible when we partner together. A crucial element of this framework is the importance of SIDS, peer learning and cooperation. Belize is excited to work together and share our experience with other member states so that we may be able to build solutions by and for SIDS. The challenges that SIDS face in generating, accessing, and using relevant and timely ocean science and knowledge are plentiful. There is no shortage of further challenges, including a lack of human resources, financial resources, adapted and accessible technology, and timely and relevant data and information in forms that can be used for policy or decision-making. However, I am confident that through our joint efforts, we will rise to the occasion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very interesting to hear about this Blue Bond experience in Belize, something we discuss in this report, and the nature of transformative change that we keep talking about this week. We do need the leaders that go test these new solutions, and hopefully we can scale them going forward. Thank you very much. And now moving to Portugal, His Excellency Mr. João Gomes Cravinho, Minister for Foreign Affairs. On the back of the Ocean Conference last year, can you tell us about your priorities for investing in ocean science going forward?
Well, thank you very much, and I'd like to acknowledge His Serene Highness Prince Albert II of Monaco, and of course His Excellency President Ramkalawan. Thank you to the Explorers Club for this opportunity. For us, for Portugal, the oceans, it's a central part of our foreign policy. It's a central part of our history. We would not be what we are today if it had not been for many, many generations of exploration and of venturing out into the ocean. So we have, I think I would say, long-standing understanding of the challenges facing SIDS today. And that's part of the reason why we've been co-chairing with Samoa the Steering Committee for SIDS Partnerships here at the United Nations. We are an archipelagic country. The Azores and Madeira are 11 islands that give us a sense of the challenges of insularity and the problems in dealing with that. So we're sensitive to that. And I would like at the outset also to express solidarity with particularly Pacific Island states in their dealing with rising sea levels. We have Portuguese expert on the International Law Commission who is chairing the consequences, work on the consequences, legal consequences of rising sea levels. And it's much more, the ramifications are much wider than one could imagine at first. I would like to comment on two aspects of what I think is a positive development, which is a converging support for an ambitious oceans agenda. But two aspects I think that need particular consideration from us. Firstly, we clearly need to work more and to work faster on effective protection of sustainable use of ocean and maritime and marine biodiversity. This is a priority for Portugal, and it's happening in different ways. It's a priority, of course, for SIDS, and that brings us close together. My colleague from Belize has already mentioned the importance of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework and the BBNJ, and that's worth underlining. I wanted to, though, to mention an experience that we had last year with the UN Oceans Conference that you mentioned. One of the side events that we organized was the what we call SBAFE, the Sustainable Blue Economy Investment Forum. And we discovered something quite interesting in that context. We set up this investment forum, which was a kind of matchmaking exercise, bringing together different sources of financing, private, public, the international financial institutions, with entities that were developing sustainable blue economy projects that needed financing. Firstly, we had an interesting sign early on, which was that it was massively oversubscribed, and we had to close down registration quite far in advance of the event itself. The second thing that we discovered was that there's a lot more money than projects. There's loads of money out there. And where is this money coming from? It's coming from, of course, the traditional sources like the international financial institutions and some private investors. But it's coming also from the very big pension funds, because they're thinking long term. These are institutions that are looking decades into the future. And they have identified very clearly that there is a gap in an area which is a massively important area of investment for the future, the sustainable blue economy. And so, because we found that there was much more money than there were projects, what was intended as a one-off event, side event for the UN Oceans Conference, we decided to make into, I don't know if it'll be an annual event, but certainly we're repeating it this year. It's happening in early October, couple of weeks' time. And again, we've had a very significant uptake of interest. So while understanding my colleague from Belize, his references to the lack of financing, it's not that there isn't financing out there. It's that it's not being well mobilized in the right directions in a manner that governments and countries can use appropriately according to their own investment plans. I think there's work to be done, perhaps not exactly the kind of work that we're thinking, not enough money to go around, but a different kind of work, which is helping to direct the money to where it needs to go. So that's the first point that I wanted to make on more and faster effective protection of the sustainable blue economy. The other item that needs to be a very central part of the oceans agenda is sustained investment in science, knowledge, and innovation. This was, I think, quite significantly highlighted at the UN Oceans Conference in Lisbon last year in 2022. That conference was the biggest so far on oceans, but I would like to see much bigger ones coming in the future. We've gone only a small part of the way down the road that we need to, in terms of linking up, and you spoke of synergies, linking up the oceans debates with the whole climate change challenges that we face, even though probably around 80% of the impact of climate change is felt in the oceans, is absorbed by the oceans. And yet we haven't really, when we do our COPs, climate change COPs, we haven't really brought that on board. And I think that science, knowledge, and innovation are central parts to managing to bridge that gap and bring that forward. So the final point that I want to make is, on our side, we are not the largest country in the world. We're pretty large, actually, when it comes to oceans. But even so, modestly, we are investing around a third of our development assistance in to SIDS. We are organizing, well, our development cooperation strategy is one that is prioritizing the SIDS. And we are organizing in next month, apart from the SPAIF, the Sustainable Blue Economy Investment Forum, also a triangular cooperation meeting, which is dedicated to scaling up partnerships with SIDS. This is something we're organizing with the OECD. So what I would like to finalize with is very simply the notion that Portugal is a country that is very keen to use its voice, however modest it may be. It's not overly modest. However modest it may be, we'll use our voice to amplify the needs, the requirements, and the challenges of the SIDS. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister, for sharing that encouraging experience of the Investment Forum. And I think that echoes so much what we heard today, also in sustainable development financing more broadly. It's also an access issue, and we need the good project pipelines to use this finance in a good way. Last but not least, we go to the UK, Her Excellency Ms. Therese Coffey, Secretary of State for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs. Can you please share with us also your priorities for supporting SIDS?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today, and it's fantastic to have Your Serene Highness and Mr. President for co-chairing this collaboration between the two organisations. And it certainly needs that boost to really make sure that this critical mission is at the forefront of people's minds. I'm just considering that, you know, frankly, we've had a challenging decade at the start, bringing everything together, and it's fabulous that we are making the progress that we were. And if I think back to Bonn, COP, Climate COP, honestly, ocean was just a fringe event, and it's taken a lot of pushing, and it's nearly getting there, and it needs to be there. Because frankly, if it hadn't been for the ocean, climate change would have already rapidly accelerated, and life on planet would not be what it is today. So finally, we're starting to realize that, and I think that's why the UNESCO Ocean Decade of Science has been absolutely vital. And you know, the UK is proud of its science it does, and one of the things in particular that I'm proud of is through our £500 million Blue Planet Fund. In particular, we support ODA-eligible countries through our ocean partnership programs. And that is about marine science expertise. It's about taking translating that then into making policy and boosting the prosperity of coastal communities. And it's absolutely vital to make sure that we do that. I'm conscious we are actually a large island state, but we have many friends around the world. Actually, I'm sat next to our longest-standing ally for many hundreds of years. And of course, Belize, we're part of the Commonwealth family in many ways. But frankly, it is the duty of the international community to step up and support the leadership that our SIDS, large ocean states have, who are already taking on the challenge of that resilience and prosperity that we need to have for our oceans and for our seas, and something I hope that we will be brought sharply into focus this year, or with the pivotal UN SIDS4 conference coming up in about 6 months' time. Now, I'm absolutely delighted that you've said that there's loads of money around. Because the Global Biodiversity Framework, it was a fantastic conclusion at the end of last December, and that's when I think we signed up to be a friend of the SIDS Coalition for Nature. And I was made sure that the UK, perhaps a modest amount, contributed to the Global Biodiversity Framework Fund, and we need more countries to join in to get it going. Because frankly, unless more developed nations, I actually really can't bear that phrase, but you know what I mean. The richer nations around the world need to cough up the cash, and we need support as well from the wider industry too. Because a lot of countries signed up to GBF on a promise, on a pledge, that we would help, and we have to do that. And I'm determined that we will. So one of the things I think that we must make sure that we do is not allow the excuses anymore, frankly. And I appreciate the frustration that SIDS are going through when they're trying to access essential finance. So it is up to us to not only our own what we do ourselves, but for finance providers to ensure that their processes are tailored to small state systems, not creating unreasonable, unrealistic bureaucracies for the SIDS to navigate and get that money that they need. And that's why I think the SIDS 4 conference in the spring is really an opportunity to get our priorities right, agree transformational change on finance, and that international support. And we will continue to do what we can, a very modest way. We're providing £500,000 to support SIDS 4 operation through the UNDSCA's Trust Fund, and we will provide further support focused on amplifying your voices and mobilising the international community to act. So we have already set up a variety of, partnerships. The task force is there to try and get elements moving. We continue to want to work. We're looking forward to work with our Samoan partners for a successful Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting next year. And I do genuinely believe that we have, this is the unique opportunity, you'll have heard this before, literally to catch the wave. And that is what we must do. And we can only do that for our planet, for the countries that we represent, if we help SIDS make the difference now. And we need a healthy ocean for every generation around the world to prosper. So I really wish you well on the road to SIDS 4, and we want to help that to be a success. But more broadly, the United Kingdom is absolutely front and centre to try and make sure that we make this the decade of not only ocean science, but also the decade of actually the ocean becoming top of our agenda. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Catching the wave, that's a beautiful metaphor. I would like to see if we have our Minister of International Development from Norway. She is stuck in traffic. Okay.
So, slight change of plan. We're going to do a photo. So if I may invite His Serene Highness to join us on stage, and the President Ramkalawan to also join us on stage, as well as the ministers of France, Belgium, Fiji, and Saint Martin. Please join us on stage for a group photo to launch the partnership. Just lay it out with the papers. And here is the, Assistant Secretary General, Ms. Patolizano. Please join us on stage.
stand behind. Hang on, hang on. Tall folks to the back. Tall folks. We'll do a second round. How's that?
Thank you.
Well curated.
Yeah, well, I gotta check my phone every time. Pardon? That was not the plan, but you can if you like. Thank you very much. Thank you. If we could please return to our seats, please. Thank you. So they want to do Secretary General. If we could please return to our seats, please. Okay, we're gonna make some, yeah, please, thank you. Sorry. No problem. It's now my pleasure to introduce a fellow countryman from Italy. The Assistant Director General of DESA, Ms. Spatolisano. Before her current role, Ms. Spatolisano served as the European Union Ambassador to the OECD and UNESCO, Monaco, and Andorra. She was a member of the EU delegation to the United Nations, serving as the head of the Economic and Trade section. She covered all issues related to trade, development, and environmental policies in the second committee of ECOSOC, and was also the EC representative to the fifth committee. Since 2017, she has been responsible for international organization and development dialogue with the donors in the Commission's Director General for Development Cooperation. You all really like, in this capacity, it's a very accomplished. Okay, well, here is Ms. Spatolisano.
Thank you very much. What can I say to recapture your attention after such a momentous, debate and wonderful picture taken? I would like Excellencies, President of the Republic of Seychelles, Mr. Ram Kavalan, and honorable ministers, distinguished members and friends of SEEDS, partners, hosts, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank the honorable co-chairs for this invitation and for launching such a timely and strategic cooperation framework between the SEEDS, Coalition for Nature, and the Ocean Decade Alliance. As we heard this evening, supporting SEEDS in accelerating the 2030 agenda through ocean knowledge and capacity development is of great importance. the recently released Global Sustainable Development Goals report, which OSA presented and knows everything about, clearly underscores that the SDGs are off track at the halfway point towards 2030 as we are today. And while implementation has been too slow overall, some areas, such as biodiversity loss, including marine biodiversity, have been regressing even before the pandemic and have now suffered, of course, significant setbacks. And as further pointed out by the report, for instance, SDG 14, the life below water, seems to be mostly negatively affected by progress in other sectors if we were to follow business as usual approaches. But we don't want to do that. We want transformative action. Transformative ocean actions are more than ever required in large ocean states such as SEEDS. Transformation to sustainable pathways should be rooted in science, as we all in this room agree, but it's not that easy to connect the science with the action. Mobilizing the knowledge of scientists, practitioners, and communities at all levels, and building associated capacities in SEEDS are urgent endeavors. Only this way we will succeed and better identify key interventions that have systemic effects across the SDGs for a healthy ocean. Understanding the role of blue carbon ecosystems such as mangroves or seagrass in terms of climate change mitigation, adaptation, disaster risk reduction, sustainable fisheries, blue tourism, and water purification is fundamental to be able to better inform strategic investment and guide integrated ocean action. For example, ecosystem services valuation offers knowledge to enhance and guide integrated decision-making, and it helps to compare different investment plans along the coast to determine environmental services contributions to key economic sectors such as tourism, and to calibrate fiscal policies in terms of taxes and fishery subsidies, for example. So overall, enhancing ocean knowledge is the first step towards effective ocean action. It is instrumental to successfully inform, identify, and scale up, as we heard, scale up sustainable blue investment. And this is even more critical when considering that SDG 14 has been assessed as one of the least funded of all the SDGs. We heard how SEEDS have been leading by examples in many fronts, including ocean conservation and guardianship, sharing common marine-related features and development challenges. SEEDS have been pioneering solutions that could be constructively replicated from one SEEDS to another. As such, this cooperation framework will be powerful to leverage SEEDS commitments towards nature-based solutions and unlocking SEEDS and SEEDS peer learning and the cooperation on ocean activities. This peer learning, SEEDS to SEEDS, holds a significant potential, and cooperation on, would accelerate transformative nature actions, implement the Global Biodiversity Framework, the Paris Agreement, and achieve the 2030 Agenda for SEEDS. Last but not least, the required transformation is not only possible, but it is inevitable. In this fragile and interconnected blue planet. In this context, I have noted with great enthusiasm, of course, the strong words of support delivered by friends of SEEDS today. Partnership and support from the international community will be key to the implementation of the Joint Action Framework on Ocean Knowledge for SEEDS. Such support will be precise and precious and timely ahead of the 4th SEEDS Conference, International Conference in 2024, and the UN Ocean Conference in 2025. UNDESA, my department, is proud to be the secretary of the 4th UN SEEDS conference, and we are also proud of our role in the inception of the SEEDS Coalition for Nature. And we will continue to support the SEEDS Coalition for Nature and the SEEDS priorities, be them in biodiversity, environmental, or economic, of course, in the framework of the major international conferences ahead of us. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Patronisano. We now have a few minutes for comments from the floor, and I will be asking His Excellency, Mr. Vincent van Quickenborne of Belgium, to Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Justice and the North Sea, to take the floor for a minute. Is there a microphone that can reach him? No? Is he out?
I think he left.
Oh, okay. That's fine. Next, perhaps, Her Excellency, Mrs. Sarah El Ahiri, the Minister of State. Pardon? Okay,
there.
good.
Mesdames, Messieurs, Monsieur le Président, Mesdames, Messieurs les ministres, chers collègues, je vais être extrêmement concise. Tout d'abord, je vous remercie chaleureusement pour cette séquence de mobilisation pour la coalition des SEEDS.
Prime Minister, ministers, colleagues, I'll be brief. First of all, I would like to thank you warmly for organizing this event and for your commitment to the SEEDS Coalition.
Je voudrais commencer par évoquer l'appel d'IFRIA à l'occasion de la visite du président de la République Emmanuel Macron au Vanuatu le 27 juillet dernier. Nous y reconnaissons la vulnérabilité particulière des petits États insulaires en développement face à la triple crise planétaire.
I'd like to start by mentioning the IFRA call launched when French President Macron visited Vanuatu on July 27th. And in it, we recognize the particular vulnerabilities of the SEEDS in the face of the triple global crisis.
Nous y appelons tous nos partenaires à réaliser les objectifs de développement durable, ceux de l'accord de Paris bien sûr, sur le climat, mais aussi le cadre mondial de la biodiversité Koenig-Montréal, et de soutenir la vision et les objectifs du pacte de Paris pour les peuples et la planète, issus du sommet de Paris de juin 2023.
We call on all our partners to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, those of the Paris Climate Agreement and the coming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, and to support the vision and objectives of the Paris Act for People and the Planet that emerged from the June 23 Paris Summit.
La France sera déterminée à continuer de mobiliser dans ce sens, et en particulier de la 3e conférence des Nations Unies pour l'océan qui aura lieu à Nice en juin 2025. Nous souhaitons y voir des résultats et davantage d'engagement, y compris financiers, pour les SEEDS.
France will be determined to continue mobilizing in this direction, particularly with the Third United Nations Ocean Conference, which will be held in Nice in June 2025. We hope to see results and more commitments, including financial ones, to support SEEDS.
D'ici là, la feuille de route est extrêmement claire. Nous devons obtenir des avancées dès la COP28 pour accroître l'ambition de tous les domaines de la coopération climatique. Nous devons ratifier au plus vite les traités BBNJ que la France signera dès mercredi. Nous devons mettre en œuvre l'objectif de 30% des mers protégées, issu de la COP 15 de Montréal, et nous sommes prêts à assister tous ceux qui le souhaitent dans ce sens, avec des outils mis évidemment à disposition par la coalition de la haute ambition pour la nature et les peuples, coprésidée par la France, avec le Costa Rica et le Royaume-Uni.
Between now and then, the roadmap is clear. We need to make progress as early as COP28 to increase ambition in all areas of climate cooperation. We must ratify the BBNJ treaty as soon as possible, which France will sign this Wednesday. We must implement the 30% target for protected seas set at the COP15 in Montreal, and we're ready to assist those who wish to do so with the tools made available by the High Ambition Coalition for Nature and People, co-chaired by France, Costa Rica, and the UK.
Mais soyons très clairs, nous devons accroître les connaissances scientifiques et les outils de coopération pour faire face à l'élévation du niveau des mers, conséquence bien sûr du dérèglement climatique qui cause un risque existentiel aux États insulaires. Dans ce cadre, nous souhaitons renforcer la coopération pour l'adaptation des villes menacées par la montée des eaux et nous utiliserons le prochain One Planet Polar Summit de Paris en novembre prochain pour mobiliser en ce sens.
We need to increase scientific knowledge and cooperation tools to tackle rising sea levels, a consequence of climate disruption that poses an existential risk to island states. And in this context, we want to strengthen cooperation to adapt cities threatened by rising sea levels. And we'll be using the upcoming One Planet Polar Summit in Paris in November to work in this direction.
Mesdames, Messieurs, chers amis, sur tous ces sujets, vous pouvez compter sur le soutien de la France et je vous remercie.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, on all those issues, you can count on France's support. Thank you very much.
Merci, Madame la Ministre. Je suis désolé pour la demande des commentaires retardés. Thank you all for joining us tonight, to all their excellencies, prime ministers and ministers and heads of state. This was a delight, and we are proud to have hosted this momentous accord. Have a good night.